You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
And you have offended Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth!
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
All right, folks, hold on tight, strap in. The fire hose of truth is coming at you. We got plenty of stuff to talk about here in the Radical Rant. We've had so many great guests and doing so much work with the Normal Network that there's been some stories I wanted to comment on, and let's just get right to it. First of all, a great report came out on Tuesday from the Drug Policy Alliance, and, I've always been of the opinion that when you take someone who's a cannabis consumer, whose only problem with cannabis is they got caught with cannabis, and then you put them in a drug court where you say, all right, you can choose to go to rehab or you can choose to go to prison. I've always said that's a waste of time and really kind of a gilded cage. Because, yeah, it's jail by another term. You're having to, your freedom's being taken away from you. You're on probation. You have to do UAs and so forth. So, yeah, it's better than prison. But it's still a punishment that is not needed, a rehab that is wasted. A majority of the tokers who end up in rehab, 57% of them, are forced there by the criminal justice system, either through an arrest or through a drug court or, blown probation or whatever. And then a third, or over a third, 37% of the people who go to rehab for marijuana have not used marijuana in the month prior to going to rehab, and another 16% of them only used 1 to 3 times a month before going to rehab, because marijuana is so addictive. But here in this report, this is amazing stuff that found that not only is this forced drug court rehab a gilded cage, it's also ineffective. This is from the report. At 2 briefings on Capitol Hill today, the Drug Policy Alliance released a groundbreaking new report. Drug courts are not the answer toward a health-centered approach to drug use. You can find it, by the way, at drugpolicy.org/drug courts, which finds that drug courts have not demonstrated cost savings, not reduced incarceration, and have not improved public safety. They leave many people worse off for trying and have actually made the criminal justice system more punitive toward addiction, not less. Now, this also comes on the heels of a release from the Justice Policy Institute that has released its own review of drug courts. This is called Addicted to Courts, How a Growing Dependence on Drug Courts Impacts People in Communities, which you can find at justicepolicy.org/drug courts. So both of them, right? drugpolicy.org/drug courts, justicepolicy.org/drug courts. Very clever. And you can find both of those reports. Now, I encourage you to go log on, check those out. They're pretty amazing. Here's some of the key findings from these reports. Drug courts have not demonstrated cost savings, reduced incarceration, or improved public safety. Unscientific and poorly designed research has failed to take into account that drug courts often cherry-pick people expected to do well, that many people end up in drug court because they are offered the option of jail or treatment for a petty drug law violation, including marijuana, and, as a result, drug courts do not typically divert people from lengthy prison terms. Given drug courts' focus on low-level offenses, even positive results for individual participants translate into little public safety benefit to the community. Treatment in the community, whether voluntary or probation supervised, often produces better results. Well, yeah, no wonder the drug czar's office can say, and this is a quote from the drug czar's office, "Research verifies that no other justice intervention can rival the dramatic results of those produced by drug courts." End quote. Well, yeah, because you're successfully rehabilitating a whole bunch of pot smokers who need no rehabilitation. Hey, what do you know? When we force pot smokers to rehab, randomly test their pee, keep them on probation, surprisingly few of them reoffend, because the rehab cured the terrible addiction that they never had in the first place. Another point that they make, drug courts leave many people worse off for trying. The widespread use of incarceration for failing a drug test, missing an appointment, or being a knucklehead means that some participants end up serving more time behind bars than if they had not entered drug court. And some participants deemed failures may actually face longer sentences than those who did not enter drug court in the first place, often because they lost the opportunity to plead to a lesser charge. Even those not in drug court may be negatively affected by them, since drug courts have been associated with increased arrest and incarceration in some cases, because law enforcement and others believe people will get help if they're arrested. But drug courts' limited capacity and strict eligibility requirements mean that many of those additionally arrested end up conventionally sentenced. Now, in my job here with Normal, I read a ton of emails. I get people's life stories, some of the most tragic stories. And I'll tell you the one that I got from parents that emailed me because they thought they could get help for their drug-using adult child by narking them out to the police. Tough love, they thought, but not too tough, because they figured, well, he'll go to drug court and the drug court will force him to go to the treatment that he needs and he'll avoid jail. Well, too bad for them. Their adult child also kept a legally owned shotgun at the house on a triple beam scale. So he didn't qualify for the drug court, and now he's doing 10 years in the pen. Furthermore, in the what the drug courts, this is from the Drug Policy Alliance summary here, drug courts are more punitive toward addiction, not less. Some people with serious drug problems respond to treatment in the drug court context, not the majority. The participants who stand the best chance of succeeding in drug courts are those without a drug problem, while those struggling with compulsive drug use are more likely to end up incarcerated. Look, folks, because here's the thing about people with drug problems. Let me just dish some science out on you. They are physiologically addicted to a drug, to a chemical. It rewires their brain. When presented with options like stop doing that or go to jail, they can't make the sensible choice. They can't look at that rationally and go, oh yeah, I should stop doing cocaine. I should stop doing meth. I should stop doing heroin. I don't want to go to jail, so I'll just stop. They cannot make that. That's what addiction is. Relapses are virtually guaranteed for anyone who's trying to quit a serious drug addiction, so the threat of prison time for failing to maintain sobriety works against maintaining that sobriety in the first place. They figure, well, I'm going to relapse anyway. I might as well not even try. People struggling with addiction sometimes make their greatest gains after a relapse. But in the drug court scenario, it's one strike and you're out. You have that relapse, it's back to prison. And here's the thing about people that smoke pot. Nearly none of us have any sort of problems resulting from our use of pot. Now, National Institutes of Drug Abuse say 9% of users are clinically dependent, but I would counter that these people are often folks that have bigger problems in their life that is leading them to depend on cannabis. But, that's my personal opinion. Aside from its criminal prohibition, cannabis is a positive in our lives. It relaxes us. It heals some of us. It helps build social bonds. And most of all, it's not hurting you. All right, so there's your first rant, but we get a little double shot here because I got another little rant that I got to go off on here. And it's called, What Has Normal Done for You Lately? And I see these in blogs and people make comments sometimes. And here's the comment that I am responding to today. Normal hasn't accomplished anything since the disco era. They haven't done a damn thing in the last 30 years. Paul Armentano is the only good thing Normal has going. Aside from him, this movement wouldn't even notice if Normal had ceased existing. All right, look, I'll concur. Paul Armentano is an MVP all-star in marijuana law reform. You cannot find a better person educated on the science of marijuana. But to conclude that Paul is the only good thing Normal has going is to disparage the incredible work being done by hundreds of grassroots activists working in the Normal chapter network. For example, Chris Goldstein, Ann Davis, and Normal, New Jersey, instrumental in bringing about negotiations with New Jersey lawmakers to get Governor Corzine's signature on the law making it the nation's 15th medical marijuana state. Derek Rosenzweig and Philly Normal uncovered and published research on Philadelphia's racial bias in marijuana enforcement, leading to a change in policy that ended arrests of low-level marijuana consumers in the city. Michigan Normal and MassCan Normal laid the groundwork for 2008's medical marijuana and decriminalization, respectively, in those two states, in Michigan and Massachusetts, by passing numerous municipal measures in support of marijuana. Madeline Martinez and Oregon Normal led negotiations with lawmakers to set medical marijuana limits to 24 ounces and 24 plants, the highest statewide statutory limits in the nation, along with Washington State. Dale Geringer, Bill Panzer, California Normal, helped co-author Prop 215 in California, worked for clarifications found in SB 420, worked with Assemblyman Amiano to produce the first legalization bill in decades, helped shepherd the latest California decrim measure to Schwarzenegger's desk, and are organizing with Prop 19's leaders for a new legalization measure in 2012. Candace Hawes in Orange County Normal held the nation's first medical marijuana conference specifically for seniors across the street from Disneyland. Mary McKinney Mackenzie Crow, Arizona for normal. Phoenix normal were the foot soldiers who gathered the signatures that got MPP's Arizona's Prop 203 on the ballot. Kelly Maddy, Joplin normal, Dan Vietz, Missouri normal, all worked in Missouri to pass lowest law enforcement and other municipal measures. Ben Maisel, Gary Stork, Madison normal, all lobbied intensively for the Jackie Rickert Medical Marijuana Act, moving it farther along in the legislative process every single year. Colorado normal, Mile High normal have worked with SAFER on their initiatives, gathering signatures that led to Denver's legalization and other low priority initiatives. Isaiah Valdez and Idaho normal are beginning the grassroots education and activism in one of the most anti-marijuana states in the nation. The state currently has a medical marijuana bill in the legislature, and the group is following it up with a citizens initiative. John and Heather Masterson in Montana normal, battling to mitigate the perception of abuse of medical marijuana created by unethical ganjapreneurs, and most recently providing live coverage of DEA raids in Montana. Then there are the hundreds of attorneys who make up the normal legal committee who have donated thousands of hours of pro bono time, helping average cannabis consumers to avoid jail and retain voting rights. Also working on new laws. For example, Jeff Blackburn, who kept an AIDS patient out of a Texas prison with an affirmative defense that a jury agreed with in only 11 minutes of deliberation. The patient's original public defender only offered a plea deal that would have meant 6 months of drug testing that would have left that patient without his medicine wasting away. Doug Hyatt, who fought for the life of a Hep C patient named Tim Guerin, who was denied a liver transplant because his legal medical marijuana use in Washington state made him a drug addict in the eyes of the hospital. Hyatt is now behind the Sensible Washington effort to fully legalize by citizen initiative. And let's not forget the national staff, like me, like the volunteers that bring this show to you every single day, bringing you the news and the information and the interviews to help educate you in this fight, who constantly are educating, advocating, interviewing, debating, advertising, litigating, and lobbying, and moving this conversation forward. And this is just at the top of my head since about 2007 when I got involved with Normal. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what organization you want to get involved with. I don't care what acronym you want to have behind your name. To me, it's like the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. What a great place to start. Sure, we tease each other. Sure, we've got some brother-sister rivalries, some internecine battles, some grudges that we hold. But so does the Navy and the Marines, for God's sake. You ever been around a bunch of sailors and leathernecks before? How about the Air Force and the Army? I mean, they've got some grudges that have been going on for a long time. But for me, what's important about this is that we're all fighting for an end of prohibition. However, there are some important differences. DPA is about drug policy. They think drug prohibition sucks. MPP is about marijuana policy. They think marijuana prohibition sucks. SAFER is about a choice. They think alcohol sucks compared to marijuana. ASA is about medical marijuana, but they're silent on healthy people like me. And LEAP is about cops expressing the drug war failure. They think prohibition sucks. But Normal, out of all the groups, is the one that doesn't just think marijuana prohibition sucks, but that cannabis use is a positive. We're not just anti-prohibition, we're pro-marijuana. And that's what Normal's been doing for you for the past 30 years. We are the grassroots. Thanks for joining us here. For Cannabis Carrie and Ganja John and Kaliko the intern, I'm Radical Russ. We'll talk more about this in Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. For those of you on the podcast, thanks for listening, and until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it.